Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Power Sessions. Good to see everybody. I am here with the wonderful Mr. Don Phelan. Hi, Don.
Hey, good morning.
We always love having Don. He's our pro. We're all pros, but he's our pro.
Well,
So,
and
yeah.
the illustrious Doug Hale over there,
Oh,
sitting
yeah, and Doug's here as well. Yes, he
sipping on
is.
coffee
Hey,
this morning.
Doug. So let's get started. So I have a question for everyone. You can hit your like button, not like button, but I have a question. When you write up a contract with an agent, excuse me, with the client, let's talk about purchase agreements specifically. When you start out, you're going to show them a property. Who can tell me, just real quick, somebody just unmute yourself. If I want to show a property to a buyer, what are the one or two things that I should have at minimum? Anybody real quick?
Property showing agreement or a buyer agency agreement.
Correct. Okay. And then what happens when you go through that home and you're ready to write an offer? Are you writing the offer and then reviewing the forms with them? Are you sending it over through dot loop? Um, what are you doing out there? Because
Well,
we
if
use dot loop, it used to be that we would sit in front of the client. So now that we have this virtual world that we live in, how are you reviewing the forms with your clients?
A lot of times I communicate with them and ask them, would you prefer me to sit down with you and go over everything? Or would you like me to send them to you? You can read them, and if you have questions, get back with me. And then I follow up if they want it that way.
Okay. What's anybody else do?
When I would normally have them printed out and take them with me
Okay.
and then go over them with them. It's if it is the first time I've met them, at a showing,
Okay.
I would take them all with me.
Don, what should we be doing when in this virtual world and we now have what, seven, eight, nine forms to review? Let's talk about well, let's first, before we tell them what we should be doing or sharing what we should be doing, tell me why reviewing the forms with our clients is important.
Well, a couple of things. One, it provides an explanation of what they're offering. It kind of sets their expectations about um, how the transaction is going to proceed, how it's going to move forward. And I think that one of my biggest concerns that I have had for many, many years is blanks in contracts. One of the things that agents tend to do is they don't fill everything out. There's a blank. There's something that they think doesn't apply, or they don't know the answer, and so they don't put that information in. Always put everything in, even if it's does not apply or none or whatever you want to put in there. Blanks in contracts used to be the number one cause of real estate lawsuits in Michigan. I don't know that it is now, but I would imagine that it probably is still. But reviewing the contract with a buyer is going to establish the ground rules moving forward, and that's essential. They have to understand what they're agreeing to.
Perfect, perfect. So very important is to be able to outline that with the client. I'll give you one example. What about earnest money disputes? Or returning earnest money, terminating. The buyer, we're talking about purchase agreements at this point. The buyer needs to understand that full contract from beginning to end. There's a lot of steps in there that we all know. There's not just the sales price that you're negotiating inspections, you're reviewing title work, it's contingent upon lending. And one of the things that I like to use an example is earnest money. The purchase agreement basically says, hey, you have so many days to do your inspections. If you try to negotiate it or you want out, these are your options. You can accept it, you can negotiate it, you can terminate it, and the buyer will receive their earnest money back. Okay, how many of you have ever had where a buyer terminated and they said, okay, when will I get my earnest money back? Okay, how's that work, Don? There's a couple things here. One is,
Well,
how long does it take 5 Star to get it? And two, is it automatic?
well, first I'm going to agree with Joe Turner that I always send out documents in dot loop before I ever fill them out with the client. I think it's a
Yes.
great comment, Joe. Thank you. I always meet with buyers and I go through the contract paragraph by paragraph before we even go out and look at houses. Sometimes that's not possible if you're showing your own listing or if you're, you happen to meet them and show the house or open house or whatever the. But I think going through the contract before you ever write anything is really, really important. So back to the EMD question. There are two laws that are, I'll say contract law, which says that the buyer is going to get their money back. And then there's the escrow law in Michigan, which says, not so fast. If there is a dispute under escrow law, we have to abide by escrow law. Escrow law supersedes contract law in Michigan. And escrow law essentially says if you can't get a mutual release, if both parties can't agree to the disbursement of that EMD, then the only other option is to resolve the matter in court before we can release that money. It's as simple as that.
Mhm. Perfect. So what I always tell my clients, and I agree with Joe, what I do is we just showed the house. The buyer says, "Hey, I want to write up an offer." I ask them, "Do you want to go to the office? Would you like?" And we can review it, write it right then. A lot of times they say no. I'll get it prepared, and then I will let them know, "Hey, I have sent it over according to the terms." I send it to them through dot loop in view only. And I'll say, "When would you like to review?" So we will get on the phone, get on a Zoom. I go through every document with them. I want them to fully understand what they're signing. Then there might be some things I don't know. How many days do you need to get me the earnest money? What day works best for a closing? So usually there are some things that are not resolved yet. So then I will get on with them. I'll finish filling it out. Then I send it back to them to review where they can sign with the signature. So you can always prove, I always say when it's in view mode, here's the contract. I look forward to speaking with you at 5. That way I'm showing that we're going to review it. So that's really important. And then the other thing I say to my buyers is, yes, this is what the earnest money, you should get it back. It says you will get it back, but please understand that I don't have the power to release that. This can only be released through buyer and seller mutual agreement. And even though the contract says you can terminate, there are situations where the seller may not release that willingly. And I explain that to them. And also, I know our policy is give us up to 30 days to return an earnest money to a buyer. So it just helps clarify their expectation.
But Kim, if the language, they even put it in an addendum or other contingencies that the buyer will absolutely positively get their money back if the inspections fail. And the answer is still the same. If there's a dispute, it doesn't matter. It's going to have to be resolved by mutual release or a judge. It's that simple. It doesn't matter what the contract says.
Yep, yep. And that matters. That's the same even if it says it's non-refundable and it will automatically go to one party or the other if there's
Oh,
a default.
let's talk about non-refundable.
Oh boy.
Wow. Okay. I love it when a contract says earnest money to be non-refundable. Boom. End of sentence. That is virtually unenforceable because no judge in the world is going to look at that and say, oh, yeah, under all conditions in this contract, under all contingencies, if the buyer fails to satisfy those contingencies, they're going to give up their earnest money deposit. It has to be much more specific than that. Okay. And it has to say something to the effect of earnest money deposit to be non-refundable in the event the buyer fails to obtain financing, for example. Or it may say something like earnest money to be non-refundable for any reason through no fault of the seller. Okay. It has to be very specific in order to be enforceable. Earnest money non-refundable is just not enforceable. Any questions on that one?
All right, perfect. Any thoughts before we move on to real estate agency disclosure, Don?
I don't think so.
All right, so let's talk about the agency disclosure. Is that a contract?
No,
What is it?
a disclosure.
Disclosure. It's a
It
disclosure.
says, who am I working with? Okay, and in what position am I taking in this transaction? Am I the seller's agent? And am I the buyer's agent? Am I going to be a transaction coordinator? Or am I going to go into the very dangerous position of dual agency? What is my position with both the seller and the buyer in this transaction? And I'm simply saying, this is where I am. This is who my allegiances are to. And so I'm just disclosing it to you. It's not a contract for services.
And when do I need that to be filled out?
As soon as you can, before they start revealing confidential information. And sometimes that's kind of a questionable place. What's confidential information? I don't know, but I would encourage you to get that filled out as soon as you can after you meet a potential buyer or seller.
Perfect. Any questions? Everybody getting your real estate agency disclosure signed before you write the offer, or are you doing it at the offer? No one wants to say, Don. Rich is fessing up. Okay.
Well, based on the signatures that I see in files, I know the answer to that one.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
most of them are signed when you write the offer, but it's better if you can get them signed before. Rich, go ahead.
I've been involved in, I'm knocking on wood here, 2 audits in my life with brokerages. And both times the auditor, first thing they came in, they had 3 different files, 3 different addresses. And they said, we want to see your agency disclosure form for this file. So it's easy. Get it done right at the same time you're signing the buyer agency agreement or whatever we're doing. But all you have to do is say, look, this is just a hear ye thing. This is how I'm going to work for you. Look right here, even on our agency disclosure, it says right at the bottom, this is not a contract. I yellow that out. I show them that that's not a contract. It's just me giving you a statement. And I always try to make things funny. And I always say, look, if you and I never see each other again, this is just going to sit in a file. And if our office ever gets audited, we can pull these out. That easy.
Yeah, and Lindy, I agree. Most agents are going to have these signed when a buyer's agency contract is signed. According to the NAR settlement, in order to show a house, unless you are the listing agent for that property, you have to have either the buyer agency contract signed or the property showing agreement. Surprisingly, that doesn't always happen, even though it's been pretty clear for now 2 years. So those are the documents. Another question that comes up a lot is the question of sub-agency. Let's pretend, for example, I have a listing and a buyer walks into my open house, and they decide they want to write an offer. And I decide that I'm going to write it as a sub-agent, okay? That I'm the listing agent, but I'm going to write for the buyer as a sub-agent. Does that make any sense at all? Let me explain. I can't be a sub-agent to myself. That doesn't make sense. I'm just the listing agent. I am still the listing agent. I am not representing the buyer in any way, shape, or form, unless I decide the dangerous position of dual agency. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I can't become a sub-agent to myself. So write it as a seller's agent on behalf of the seller for the buyer, but stay in the seller's position if you can. The other question is, can I go into dual agency or should I go into dual agency? And the answer is you should avoid it if you can, if at all possible. Now, there have been circumstances where, my brother had his house listed with me and my college roommate wanted to buy the house. Okay, well, I have information on both of those people. I can go into the transaction coordinator position and make them make it clear that I am not giving either of them, any information that would benefit the other party. Or I can go into dual agency. But if I go to dual agency, I have to have several documents in place. Number one, an agency disclosure for the buyer and for the seller, a buyer's agency contract, and a listing contract. That's 4 so far. I have to then ask both parties. I cannot make that decision myself. It's not up to me. I have to ask both parties if it's okay that I go into dual agency, understanding that I'm going to have limited representation. The quotes mean that no representation. That's the limited representation part. Okay, if they say yes, then I can't give any information to either party that it gives an advantage over the other party. Then I get to decide, have 2 more documents filled out, a disclosure regarding agency relationship, now as a dual agent for each party, and a dual agency agreement signed. Does that sound like fun? And it does not prevent you from getting sued. It's that simple. Any questions?
This is really important situation. This is really important to know. Does anybody have any questions? Because we get it. I know it takes a little bit of time to understand if you've come from a brokerage that allowed it, and then you come to 5-star, and we absolutely only allow it if it's true dual agency and we can't avoid it because it is a huge liability. So does everybody understand that or have any questions? Because we're happy to explain it. So you should have 7 documents, correct, Don? In order to have dual agency,
7, yes.
7 documents should be in your loop when the admin go to review it.
Yeah.
Jim,
Yeah, being a newbie in here, so I apologize to all the pros that are sitting here. So if the subject of dual agency comes up and we want to avoid it at all cost, what are the steps to avoid it? Do I contact another agent and say, hey, and what do I say to them? How do I avoid it? What do I do?
Ruth Ann, you got the answer.
she's
I
muted.
was just saying, call me and I'll help you.
Oh.
Yeah, that's one option, Jim and Ruth Ann. That is absolutely an option. It's not required. It's not required that you hand off that buyer to somebody else. It is required that you go through the process and have all 7 documents signed. Joe.
I had a listing last summer with an existing client who had bought and we were selling their house. I also had a very good childhood friend moving back from California who had contacted me to represent him. And I have known this person my entire life, did not set up buyer agency with him at the time, sent him a couple of houses, and then it turns out that he wants to buy my listing. At this point, I tell him, I cannot be your agent. I'm happy to recommend somebody. I'm happy to write up the contract for you. But I have agency with the seller. I, at this point, do not have agency with you. And he agreed, he's bought and sold many times, that he could do it without having his own representation. And I wrote everything up as the seller's agent and had him sign the disclosure that I was not representing him. I discussed it with the seller. And then I've had that similar situation a couple of times, and that's how I've always handled it.
Yeah, and in most cases, Joe, you're absolutely right. You can explain it exactly as you did, and in most cases, sellers will or buyers will say, "Okay, I understand. Let's move forward with you representing the seller and helping me write a purchase agreement." Let's pretend, though, that Kim's situation, where you can't avoid it, where there's legitimately past history with both clients, and now they want to buy the house of the other client. You can do it under dual agency, or you can do it under as a transaction coordinator. There's nothing stopping you from moving from the seller's position regarding one transaction if you have full disclosure and their agreement to move into transaction coordination. And that is probably a safer position than in dual agency, simply because of the implication under dual agency that you're working for somebody. You're not. So here's how you do it if you go into transaction coordination or into dual agency. You have full transparency. You make it absolutely clear to both parties. You will not have conversations with either of them without the other party on the phone. You do conference calls. You follow it up with email. Hey, gang, everyone, here's what we agreed to in our call half an hour ago, and this is how we're going to proceed forward. Do you agree? Please confirm, based on our conversation on the phone and this email, that that is correct. If you maintain full transparency and really good records that you upload into Dotloop of emails and so on, you probably will be safe. But be very careful when you're walking down that road.
Perfect. We try to avoid it in as many situations as possible. And as we mentioned earlier, make sure you caught it. You don't have to hand it off. You can stay, as Joe was talking about, in the seller position. I had a call from an agent yesterday. Somebody came through her open house and they want her to write the offer. You absolutely can write the offer, but you're going to stay in the seller's position. You are not a transaction coordinator on your real estate agency disclosure. You are a seller's agent. You're saying to the buyer, hey, buyer, you understand, here's the disclosure. I work for the seller. I am not neutral and I'm not working for you. So very, very important. And the other thing would be also when you took that listing, did you write in there if you bring the buyer that you're already compensated? Did you put in there if I bring an unrepresented buyer to my listing, this is what my fee will be? I always write that in. So I don't have to renegotiate that. So we're not going to get into how commissions are on a listing agreement, but you'll also, if you're going to bring the buyer and be in that position, you want to know how you're getting paid. So very, very important. Yeah, Don.
Yeah, I am going to clarify one thing that we run into a lot. On a listing contract, be very careful about how you're filling it out. There's
Mhm.
the total commission at the top
Mhm.
of that paragraph, and it says seller's going to pay, I'm just going to use a number of, let's say, 30%. I'm kidding. But let's say 6%. And down below there, what are you going to offer a buyer's agent? Uh, and then there's sub-agency and transaction coordinator and all of that. And you don't have to, yeah, be very careful that you don't put 3% up at the top and then you're offering a buyer's agency 3%, because then you're working for zero. Read the
Mhm.
contract very carefully. It's here's the total and here's what you're sharing with a potential buyer out there. Now, as a result of the NAR settlement, I don't offer anything anymore. I take 6% on the top. I offer zero to a buyer's agency, and I allow them to come to me and say, um, here's what we want. Sometimes it's 2%, sometimes it's 3%, might be 1.5%, but I'm going to wait for that buyer's agent to ask for commission before I agree to anything.
Interesting. So you're offering a larger amount, expecting that the buyer's agent's going to come in and ask for some sort of compensation.
No, I'm taking a larger amount.
You're taking a larger amount. That's
I'm
interesting.
saying, if I sell it myself, I get 6%.
Okay. Because I haven't been doing that. So that's new information that I only charge my fee and let the rest of it
And
come from the buyer's agent. So that's interesting a way to do it. And then I just put if I bring the buyer what my fee will be in the other notes, but they're all good.
yeah, and all of those options are available. But I want to bake in a commission for a potential buyer, for
Okay.
me helping a buyer right
Mhm.
from the outset. If I negotiate it later, I've got some room to move.
Okay, that's interesting. That's good. So we're at the top of the hour. Any other questions from anyone? I just want to make sure, to be clear, does everyone know that you must at a minimum have a showing agreement to open the door for a buyer,
Unless it's your listing.
unless it's your listing?
And yes, Lindy, if I sell it myself, I can elect to keep the full 6%. I may make a different decision along the way, but I can't create an unlevel playing field. Be very careful about that one. Because if you're out there and all of a sudden you're cutting your commission, and we could face some backlash, but we don't even know yet what that backlash is, because to my knowledge, there hasn't been any case grievance come to GRAR, for example, to establish what the outcome is if you do that. So at this point, I'm building in a certain percentage, and I'm probably not going to negotiate much off of that if I write the offer myself. Does that help?
Perfect. We have one more question before we go, Don, from Mary. Who signs agency disclosure when the trustee is named as homeowner on PRD and your client, who's the home occupant, is sharing all home details with you? So we're talking about a listing. Your client is sharing all the home. I'm not sure I understand the question, Mary. Do you understand it, Don? Because if it's a trust, then the trustee is going to sign it, right? But then you're saying your client or the home occupant is sharing all home details with you. I don't think I'm understanding. Do you understand, Don?
No, Mary, can you unmute and explain that one?
Okay,
Home-
yeah, I just added there. So the home occupant, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
The home occupant has got a trustee named as the owner. So she is sharing all the information with me. She wants to sell her home, but it's actually on title, it's somebody else's name.
So is the home occupant,
The actual seller,
okay, but does she have, so the home is owned in a trust, is that correct?
correct.
Okay, and there's a signatory to the trust who is not the homeowner?
Um, okay, so I'm looking at the PRD, the public record. And I literally asked my client, who is Robert? And she's like, he's my trustee. He is shown as homeowner on the public record.
Okay, that sounds like a problem. I would get what's called a certificate of trust existence and authority and review it. Find out who, if the property is owned by a trust, it should not be Robert. If it's, what's the name of this home occupant? Just give me a first name.
So her name is Michelle.
Okay, so let's say it's owned by Michelle's trust, just for fun. Robert may be a signatory to the trust, the person who can sign on behalf of the trust. Generally, though, if Michelle is still alive and has cognitive abilities, generally she is a signatory to the trust as well. So I would dig in a little bit deeper, get that certificate of trust existence and authority, and see what it says. Robert should not be listed as a homeowner. It should be owned by the trust. So I do a little bit more digging to find more about that one.
Okay, so just get the certificate of trust before I can have any detailed conversations with her. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I think you can have detailed conversations, but explain to her that you need to see the certificate of trust existence and authority before you know who can legally sign on behalf of the trust.
Okay,
Perfect.
all right,
All
thank
right.
you.
Well, nice to see everyone today. Thank you again, Don. If
You're
there's no
welcome.
other questions, we're going to let you go enjoy this beautiful sunny day. And if you need anything, please reach out to our broker support team. We're always happy to help. Everyone have a great day.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. See you later.